Hi there, it's Hither Mann. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Now, I'm going to talk to you about something that I normally overlook in my head, but a lot of people have asked me to talk about this because they see it from looking upon my life. They see it as something quite substantial, and they said you must tell people from your anyone I could have possibly be. Anyone I can influence, they would possibly benefit from this message. In fact, I know they would. It's just that my journey has been so tough getting to this point that I've never really thought it applied to everyone else, but it has. And that comes from a very traditional point of view, or pretty much a topic of going against the grain. And is it okay to be able to go against the grain without feeling like you're doing such a massive sin? Because that's how it felt in my life. Because let's not forget that actually my background and my traditional family background would never have actually made this possible. I.e., the life I live now was never something they would condone in the beginning. My life would have been, if I followed the book, the rule book, the famous black book that these people have, and it applies to anyone with a strong cultural background. So I'm not saying that I'm not denouncing any culture, let's make that clear, but for me, it didn't work. And this is why it didn't work. Because let's say I'm a female, clearly, and I was living in a culture where females are supposed to be kind of kept at bay, or they're not allowed independence unless you are married and have a man behind you, I couldn't be living this life if it was up to my culture, because they would frown upon my independence, or they'd frown upon my decision making that I did when I was younger, because it would be going far too much against the grain, and it would be a shun on society. That's what my cultural background was about. It was all about what other people will think, very much like the royal family. Like, the best way to describe an over-the-top culture is just look at the royal family. Now, they come across as prim and proper, but within that life is possibly an absolute mad, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but it's never good because everyone's cheating on each other and they come out completely unhappy, but just for the facade of things, they stay as a happy married couple. So that's what my cultural background was, very much a facade. Women have to be a certain way. They must get married to men of this nature, and they can't be doing anything that's frowned upon socially. They can't live away from their parents. It sounds ridiculous, but in some cultures, living out of your parents' house is frowned upon. Now, there's me, the first female that ever did that, and I fit into a culture that's the opposite to where I was brought up in. So it was very tough. So people who've got that, and I think this video is mainly for people that understand the cultural restraints that you might be going through, especially if you're female, because you're not allowed to do half the things you really want. And that's where the things go wrong. You're all about what you should be doing and what looks good and what looks correct. For example, you're given no freedom as a child because you're not allowed to do anything in case you've shunned the family. Then you go to university, and God forbid it's about a mile away from your house. Then you might have to live outside your house, your family house, and then they'll eventually want shackles on you so that you can't express any freedom. And this is where females in this cultural society would go nuts. They would get crazy drugs, whatever, alcohol, men if you're female, women if you're men, if you're male, and they would go crazy. They would go absolutely crazy just because they know when they come back they finish that 3-year degree, and some of them carry on studying forever, PhD, masters, because that freedom is still there. Because they know as soon as they finish that university career, they have to go back home and live with their parents and live that, pathetic life, unfortunately, because I think it's quite pathetic where, you have to listen to everything your mum says or your dad says, and you have to do what they say to make the family look good. And believe it or not, I didn't follow any of that. And I was completely shunned for doing that, because the good thing with me, though, I didn't go crazy. I didn't do drugs or alcohol because I wasn't interested in that. I wasn't sleeping around either. So I was very good in being an independent person, and morally I knew what made me me, but I had no support from my family whatsoever, even though I was, I wasn't taking drugs or alcohol or sleeping around. they still never liked the independent thought process, which meant I wanted to live away from home and that I didn't want to have their life and I didn't want to be part of that cultural society. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not part of it. I still am not. And because it's a byproduct of the upbringing, I saw how I grew up and I saw what was around me. And I saw that all these rules and this horrible rule book made no sense because none of it worked. Every female was unhappy in my cultural background. Every male was an absolute arrogant, pointless human being, in my opinion. They were not people that would be worthy of calling. I would never want to get married to someone like that or have a relationship with a male in that life, in that cultural state. And marriages were just a facade. There was nothing base. There was no base to each relationship I saw in that place. So why would someone like me, who's somehow I had independent thought, and somehow I could look at what I was around me and the people around me, and that culture made no sense. So the rule book, I was happy to cross off completely. Did it come with any support? Absolutely not. There was nobody that would support me. And did it come with a massive amount of guilt? Yes. And even to this point, I'm quite happy not to be part of it. Or I have cut off a lot of people from that because they have this judgmental thing. They think they're better than you because they follow the rule book. And that does nothing for me. So it's a very difficult thing, especially being female, having gone through what I do. And I've found that I've apparently inspired a lot of females in this background to break that tradition or break that cultural or going against the grain. And I say, yes, do it. Because that was the best thing I did. Because you need to understand your life. Because what would happen otherwise? Give yourself both situations. If you follow the grain and you are in an unhappy marriage, you're going to end that marriage anyway. It's going to end or you're going to step out of it, regardless. So, I think people live out of fear. Those cultural rules and everything is designed to control you, is designed to keep you in fear, designed to keep you in check so that everyone knows where everyone is and you're limited. Your growth is limited, your vision's limited. They'll never want you to be independent. You always have to rely on something or someone else or the culture so that everyone feels happy. It's like an unhealthy big brother lifestyle. For me, it doesn't work. It's disgusting. And anyone who's in it and trapped, if you like that, great, fantastic, keep living it, but it's not for me. And I know that a lot of females, sometimes men, kind of struggle and then they just find me such an inspiration. How did you manage to get where you are by, how did you come out alive, pretty much? And that's a good question. I nearly didn't. And it's a tough journey. I'm never going to tell you. It builds character, and once you've gone through it, you'll understand why you'd never go back. And if anyone tried to impose any rules upon me that I didn't believe in, then they know now. I mean, they would never do that. So it will make you or it will break you. And I hope for those people who break that grain, go against the grain or break that cultural tradition because you don't believe in it, you will find it tough. But the best thing you'll do is separate yourself from them. And ultimately, you cannot fix a problem that was created with the same mindset. So if you don't like that culture, you can't stay in that culture to fix it or like to be a different person. You have to step out. You have to have a new thought process. You have to have new thinking compared to them. My thinking is very different to their thinking, and it still is and forever will be, and I forever find myself getting further apart from it. I don't care because I'm the happiest person yet. And the people I care about, they come with me. So, if people ever judge you, so for people who think, well, I'm scared about being judged or denounced, well, it's part of the whole process. If you can't handle that, you don't deserve the success that comes from going against the grain, because it will be a freedom that you'll never get anywhere else. It's a topic that a lot of people take for granted. Some cultures don't have this, but my culture does, and a lot of cultures similar to this are possibly even worse. And I encourage people not to do things. Do not stick to the status quo. Challenge it every single way, a step of the way, because if it's not for you, don't do it. These rules, and to be honest, a lot of rules were made up in this life are just designed to control people. So just be bigger than that, and stop living somebody else's life. You need to live your own life. So I hope that made sense. This is a pretty personal topic. I've never shared this before, and it's just by request that people ask how do you do it? Something very close to my heart, and it's something I'm quite worried to talk about, because I kind of think that this is going to really possibly get on, it's going to offend a few people, but you know, I enjoy it now. So I hope you learned something from that, and I hope you got some sort of direction from that, and I'll see you soon.